off the production line for Supernatural Strength merchandise is the iconic Deep, Deep, Deep Inside shirt. Ladies and gents, get out there and get your merch. Links in the description, copy and paste it into your browser. Feel the love, motherfuckers. Okay, so let's get this mother fluffer rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Fix. As we've just done the previous episode, I can very confidently tell you it's episode 57, mother fluffers. Fat lad Neil Pickup with you in the house, and once again I'm joined by our resident co-host for this amazing piece of arm wrestling history, I like to think. It's Rollie Royce. From Latvia. Sign right way around, hair newly done. None of that suction rubbish on his arms. And cats surrounding it. Oh yeah, still, Christ, they've been there for a while, mate. I thought you might have shook them off by now, but no, still there. Over in Australia, we've got Ryan Blue Bowen in the house. There he is, forearm looking pretty solid there, Ryan. And last but by no means least, it is the White Hawk from the United States of America, Paul Linn. Tearing up trees and pinning arms. Mate, I was talking to Jason Merlo the other day, and he said, I'll tell you what, mate, he said, Paul Linn stepped up. He said he's pulled you a number of times, and you felt a completely different animal of late. So it's interesting when you said on the last show that you're going to be doing a bit of work with MT, or he's coming to you, whichever way, because I know, speaking to Mike the other week, and he was saying that he's getting a car or a Raptor V or something of that description, that he's going to be doing a bit of travelling round in, getting a lot of content. Guys, if you haven't checked out Monster Michael Todd, get yourself there. Check out his channel. Guy's going nuts. I think he's around, what is he now, 50,000 subs? There or thereabouts?
Yeah, in the 40s, I think, right?
And he's on the rise.
It's climbing.
And generating good views too. Good views.
And he I had a guy speak to me, I think his name's Daniel, actually. And this guy's like a heavy lumber company, and Mike's going to go down and get some footage with him. So he's filming all kinds of content, Michael. He's getting out and doing it, mate. But at the moment, one drawback, his leg is completely knackered. Not good. But he's calling in the likes of you, mate, to work with him, to prep him for the Devon Larratt match. Give us a bit of background on that. How'd that come about? Oh, you lost me, guys?
Oh, I got you.
Oh, no,
Paul. Say again, I'm sorry, Neil.
No, you're all right, mate. I was just saying, how did it come about with Michael Todd in terms of his approach to you?
Oh, I mean, he called. I've talked to him on the phone quite a bit. Not super regularly, but every once in a while, he usually keeps me filled in on like what his plans are and things of that nature. I think we're somewhat like-minded in certain things, and we share some similarities. So he's reached out in the past, in preparation for matches and stuff, and we've been really trying to sync up for like a training session, kind of a collab. It's just one of those things where I think, he's between now and this match with Devon, he's super booked. Like his schedule, I think my schedule's busy. His schedule's crazy. He's all over the place. So, I just so happen to have, some travel coming up where I'm going to be in Texas, and he's only about 2 hours from there. So looks like we're going to get together. But he's got an unbelievable list of people that he is going to travel to or have traveled to him in preparation for this match. And you know how Michael is. He's not going to leave any rock, unturned. And he actually even asked me after we talked for a little bit, do you think this is overkill? And I said, I mean, you got several agendas going on here and you got a lot of good content, and there's no such thing as overkill for that. So as long as you're recovering and you're able to do your gym work and stuff, more is more,
No, we didn't, in the last show, we didn't get into the sort of breakdown of the match itself and how people see that in terms of the backdrop. because it's significant. I mean, you've got Michael himself with an injury in his leg now, but it's fair to say Michael had probably upped his game and stepped on a great deal in the last sort of 12 months or so. On the flip side of that coin, you've got Devon Larratt, and Devon come off a serious ailment. I mean, can he be ready? How does everybody see that? Do you think that Devon is a very credible threat for Mike right now? And we'll start with ROLLIE Rice.
I don't know.
Nice, brilliant.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know.
You can't leave it there, mate.
I even cannot put it together because I really don't know where his health is, where his strength level is compared to where he was last year and things like that. So I really don't know. If he took the match, he believes he will get ready for that match. If the health holds on, he should be good. How the match will go, Devon will take the center, will win the hand, try to climb, try to press. He will either fail or not fail. Michael will King's move, get back. Either he will King's move or he will get back and press. And that's how the match ended.
What about you, Ryan? How do you see this? Do you think it's going to end in a double Kings?
At some point it will. Just for 100 seconds. It's like,
That's a good question. For me, when I try to think about how this match is going to go, I first of all look at what happened in 2018 and what the critical things were. And the critical thing was in 2018 that Michael actually took Devon's wrist and kind of bent it back off center, which I don't think Devon anticipated to happen in that match. So since then, Devon has worked a lot on his fingers and his clamping and his ability to drag back to gain access to his own King's move. I believe Michael, in the same period, has really added a lot of offense to his game. He feels that he has more side pressure, I believe, than he has ever had before. And I think the shape will be considerably different than the last one. I think that the double Kings is a possibility. Devon will find a way. He'll always find a way to survive. I don't think Michael can, in the first two rounds, I don't think Michael's going to be able to pin Devon quickly or anything like that, but I do think that the shape will be different. If the match is on a 7x7 pad instead of the 7x9, that will change the shape as well. We saw some pretty extreme, almost parallel to the side of the table from Michael King's moves and extreme flop pressing from Devon. I don't think we'll see that again if it's the 7x7. I think it's going to be closer to traditional arm wrestling and I don't know, this match can't be anything but knife edge for me. I give Michael the edge simply for the last 6 months in terms of what's happened for training life for both of them. But interestingly, had this match have happened at 6:01, I had Devon having the edge then. And also, if you look at when they pulled at Jujimufu's garage in that little casual battle, there was obviously context in terms of the training fatigue and whatnot. But Devon looked good then. Devon looked good. He looked like he had the control. He tested and he found different ways. He gathered data. Even though Michael actually got the pin, I think Devon was fishing a little bit for information. So I think that the shape is kind of like what Ray described in terms of what Devon will look for. But if Devon's wrist goes back again, then I think Michael will get it.
Have you got it, Paul?
I mean, there's so many variables. You know, we got a year, or I don't know, however long it's been since this was really a topic. And since then, Devon has had the deep vein thrombosis thing, which that's in between the last time him and Michael gripped up on the practice table. And at that point, I had Michael as the favorite. After I saw that interaction, I felt like, based on the context, Michael being able to kind of fend him off with all the variables, I thought put Michael as the favorite. And for me, that's basing it off of understanding Michael and what he puts into preparation. So the version that we saw on that practice table is most certainly not the version that we're going to see in an actual match. And I put a lot of stock in Michael's refusing to lose mentality. Not that Devon doesn't have it, But when you take into account that, the deep vein thrombosis, Devon having to put weight back on, all these types of things, and then what I know that Michael's going to do in preparation for this match, I feel like Michael is the solid favorite, stylistically already. And then if he really executes what he's going to do in preparation, I think that brings him as even more of a favorite. But I mean, if there's anybody in North America that can beat Michael, it's either Devon or Jerry. There's nobody else really who comes to mind at this point. So it's going to be a great match regardless. And hopefully Devon proves me wrong and comes in the best shape of his life. But I'm looking forward to it regardless. I mean, it's awesome.
Well, the interesting thing is so much hate poured upon these two guys, from certain areas around the King's move. The fact that both are reliant on it. It'd be really interesting if this one goes the other way and you see a much more orthodox approach, particularly from Devon. Because if Devon, I mean, I've said many times that I think certain stylistic approaches to matches create problems for Mike. I think this is a risk match for Mike on a number of levels because Mike will want to make a statement here. He's going to want to come in and win this at a canter. He's not going to come in and want to win it, squeak through. He wants to put a statement out there and just to show that in the rubber match, he was clearly the dominant force. Now, if Devon Larratt's route through that is more of a transition back to orthodox style of arm wrestling, where he's looking to maintain centre as much as he can, gain access to a climb, and from there, finish off with that press. Keeping hold of his wrist, keeping hold of his hand is critically important, as we all know. I'm not sure that's achievable, and I'm not sure he can keep Mike away from Michael's transition unless he did that through orthodox forms. But I think that Devon's understanding of the King's move itself and the nuances of that, plus more importantly, the experience with Michael over multiple encounters previously, will have taught him a great deal. And I think if he should be prepping and will be trying to prep himself into every and any hole that he's seen and felt in their previous encounters. And I think that in itself, and the fact that a lot of people don't view Devon as one of the very best in the world. They're saying, he's not in the conversation for the top 5 right now. There's a little bit of pressure attached to that, isn't there? For Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, look.
So it's how he handles that, and whether he can come out and make that statement. And Michael, when there's blood in the water, he's a dangerous individual. Mike's going to want to make that happen. He's going to commit like no other. He's probably in a better place to commit to it than he's ever been, leg issue aside, in some respects, because he can focus a lot more on arm wrestling than he has been able to do previously. A lot of interesting dynamics with this one. There really is, But I'd personally love it if it did go more orthodox. If it went and we saw like a flashback to the old Michael Todd and the old Devon Larratt, that would be cool as fluff. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I'd love to see that.
I agree with you, Neil, that I do think that's the right path for Devon. Like, just if we're just talking about what's the most likely way he wins, he's not going to out King's move Michael. He's not. No. He will get pressed, like you said. The transition Michael will stand up and push straight through him if Devon's open like that. So it has to be a largely traditional version. You only see Devon creeping towards the King's move if the fatigue levels are extreme. And the arm wrestling match has been going for minutes on end and they're stuck in around, then you might see him holding on to dear life with it. But he will look to take control of the match with conventional arm wrestling for sure.
Yeah, if you get to a very big version of Devon, so that a similar level to the guy that pulled Dave Chaffee, you can't question the fact that if he can get to that level of shape and conditioning, then he would come in there as a real credible threat. Because he's still got the access to the superior arm length, the bigger hand, the longer forearm, great stamina, very well rounded. understanding of the move, experience of Mike, a lot of things to draw on which are in his favour. Mike, I think, is the stronger man. Mike's the better Kings puller. Mike's break his arm to win thing is absolutely 100% genuine. You know? So, interesting match. Going to have a hell of a lot of eyeballs on it. A lot of people obviously saying this is going to be the most widely viewed arm wrestling match in history. We'll see.
Should be.
You know?
Should be.
Could be. Going to be interesting.
Until now, for sure.
Yeah. The size point, I think, is a real key factor when you talk about like Devon versus Dave. You know, how big and strong he was physically at that point. The real question is between now and May, you know, with everything Devon's been going through and how light he wound up getting. I think he was below 240 at one point, which is probably a low point for him in quite some time. You know, and he's posting videos eating 20 pancakes and stuff. So how much weight can he put on in time? You know, and that's really what I think that's going to be a huge factor. Both of these guys are going to come in top-notch form, but they only have so much time to get there.
Yeah.
So that to me is huge. And I wish the absolute best for Devon, because I absolutely hate to see him go through what he did with the deep vein thrombosis and everything. It was just tragic to watch, you know, and I'm so happy that he's coming out of it, and I'd love nothing more than for him to have a great showing. But like you said, I mean, it probably will be the most widely viewed. And when you look back and say like, well, you know, if Devon's not considered in the top 5, I don't think that matters to Michael. I mean, they're like arch rival type thing here in the United States or in the North America. I think that there's going to be enough hype. I think Devon's going to play enough games on social media and everything that it's going to keep Michael really, really, really focused and motivated. So I don't think that he's going to. I think he's going to approach this match. Of course, it's not the Levon match, but it's right there with it. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of comments recently. You know, what is the significance of this match? Does it denote world number 1? No. I'm gonna say it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But interestingly, I think if you polled the entire world, not that we can, theoretically, if you polled the entire world after the conclusion of this match, or in the weeks and months after this, I would bet that the winner of this match would be the person that the world considers the world champ. It may be through the fact that they don't know that Levon exists, but I think the amount of eyes that watch this, people will make the assumption that this is for a world title.
I think it does more for Devon in the. It does more for Michael in the. You're right there, eh?
My cats are running. One just jumped in. Second one got up here.
So I think popularity, social media benefit, everything attached to that. This does more for Michael Todd than it does for Devon Larratt. Purist arm wrestling does more for Devon Larratt than it does for Michael Todd. Because Michael, you know, has got that recognition recently. Even if you don't like Mike, you've got to say, okay, Mike's one of the men in that discussion. Definitely is, you know, right now. Right. Devon sort of fallen away from that. Everybody's saying, you know,
that's a good point.
How good is Devon? And that's the thing.
That's a good point. It really is. Mike stands to gain a lot on social media, and you know, his newfound career of making money through promotion. I mean, he's going to gain a ton. You know, every video that goes back and forth with him and Devon. I mean, Devon's got 300,000 subs. He's going to gain. So it's one of those almost win-win situations for Michael. That's a good point to look at it. And almost for Devon, all Devon really has to do is have a really good showing. If he wins, now all of a sudden he makes a case, to be the next against Levon, you know, which would be huge. So, I mean, the more you dig into the match, the motivations are definitely really there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to gain so much more hype when people start looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think, it's always interesting to me how the social media reality is very different from the reality in many ways. Yeah. And also there's so many forgotten athletes there that are in that conversation. I mean, it did make me laugh when Hermes went out there and suddenly everybody rediscovered how serious Hermes is when he's on. Hermes is a bad mother fluffer and always has been. He's back injury free. He's bigger than we've ever seen him. It's sort of a natural, logical progression to assume that he's bigger, he's going to be stronger, he's motivated, he's going to be at his best. But I think there's a rake of great matches out there for Hermes. Not Devon.
Yeah.
Just other great matches where you'd like, I wonder how that'd go. A lot of good matches. Why revisit the mask thing, for Christ's sake?
Right.
Really?
Why?
It's just, it's unfinished business, I believe, in his mind. But after, there was so many of the comments and everything internet exploded from his statement. And I looked at it, looking at something, and I saw the match with him and Michael, and it was, I haven't seen it in a while, and I remember watching the live stream, and now I watched the match. It was such a crazy match. Mm-hmm. He's so, relentless. He's just trying to pin that arm, and it was really good match. In my opinion, I believe Hermes can beat Devon. I believe he just, and bam, and it's over. I don't believe.
Definitely a threat to do, without a shadow of a doubt. Is he a threat? Bet your ass he is.
Yeah. Because I don't believe Devon can top roll him, and I don't believe Devon can easily hook him. So, I would love to see that match happen just for fun. But Hermes looks very good, and he when he tested himself with Vitaly, you can see by his face he was so surprised. He's like, I'm top rolling him. I'm like, So Hermes is for real, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if that was the best way to do it. And now PL came out and they made a poster about I don't know how minutes ago, but on Facebook. And who would you want Hermes to face? And there was Gennady, Matt Mask, and who else was there? I forgot who else was there. But it's aren't all of those guys WL guys? you know. So now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan did a good video. Ryan, your video about that call out was good. I like that. You know what I mean? The perspective of that out. And then again, I got to listen to Devon's and then Matt's. Which a lot of the same points about that. Very, very strange the way it went.
Yeah, the sort of Hermes call out to Devon. I don't know how serious that was or how much it was just sort of, hey, leave my friend alone. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think there's a bit of that in it as well. A bit of divert some attention. Or just jump on the hype train. Why the hell not? PR goes through the roof. But in terms of best matches out there, it's not the match that I'd definitely like to see above all others. You know what I'm saying? Not for me. I think, there's certain athletes out there that I think are really exciting. Prudnik's one for me.
Yeah.
That I think he's like an acid test guy. The other person that I do find always entertaining against that kind of arm wrestler, that super explosive, unstoppable top roller who's not an absolute giant, is Krasimir. I do think that, we saw it with Liliev, who was another knuckles up puller. And I do think that when Krasimir's on his game, he's another one that can come out and shock people. He can come out and surprise people. The thing is with Hermes, how big is he going to go?
Right.
Because 115 kilos, that's a pretty big dude when you're lean and ripped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How tall is Hermes? He's not short, right?
No, he's not 6 foot.
I had 6'2" today somewhere.
I heard it. Well, I'm 6'1", and I don't think he's taller than me. I don't think he's tall. He might be the same height, but I've been stood next to Hermes many times, most recently at the WL, and I don't remember thinking, you're bigger than me.
Yeah, I created a WAL review of it, and I think they said it in that. But anyway, I have Hermes for me. If in the overall world ranks, I would guess Hermes somewhere between rank 9 and rank 13 sort of thing. That's where I put him, and it's not that he can't beat the guys above there. I think he could on his day. I just don't think we know it yet. We haven't seen it in the tournament. We've seen it. Yeah, there's evidence that it's suggestible that it is possible, i.e. he pulled with Vitaly. But, he could beat Devon. He could. But Devon could also beat him. And I think there's almost anyone in the list that on his day Hermes could potentially crack him. So, he's obviously hungry. He just needs a logistics manager to calculate.
Hermes hits hard enough and has enough venom that it's like the old boxer. You get hit on the jaw hard enough, you go into sleep. And Hermes definitely hits hard enough to mess up pretty much anybody's day if he catches them right. You know what I mean?
Puncher's chance, right?
Oh my God, yeah. The man's got a venomous hit. He's extremely high level naturally. He's from Armwrestling stock. Massimo Gasparini, his dad, good dude. Used to knock about with Massimo back in the day. Hermes is a beast. Always has been. Anybody who read into the situation with Matt Mask, it was Matt's day that day. Well, that doesn't really, to me, that never detracted from Hermes anyway. Just a bad day at the office. You make a mistake and Matt's going to punish you. You make a mistake with Hermes and Hermes is going to punish you. That's how it goes down. Didn't really tell me a great deal about it. It's just if you get hit, you get hit. And both of those guys are exactly the kind of person that's going to flatline you if you make a mistake. You know?
Yeah.
So, I still don't know where Hermes is at, personally. I'd love to see him pull, not a practice table match when nobody's really ready and everybody's trained a couple of days. I'd like to see him come in ready for a match and pull somebody who's an absolute acid killer and see how he does.
If I could pick Hermes' match out of the PAL crew, I'd actually like to see him pull Dimitri Trubin. I feel like that's about for me where I think, I think he gets the job done, but it's not too hard, but it's not too easy. I think that'll be the interesting one for me.
I also like Hermes and Gennady. I like that as well. Just because both guys have
so much energy.
Exactly. That's what I like about that. It's just that, it's like a trailer full of dynamite, and it's just, they both got that massive driving hit. But the thing that I like about it also is that Gennady brings different options. However, recent interviews with Michael Todd and Levan Saganashvili, and apparently Levan said, Gennady can be beaten though because his wrist is not robust. Now, I don't know whether I believe that necessarily, but I'll tell you what it is, that's an acid test, because if Hermes Gasparini can't take your wrist is pretty robust in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because Hermes Gasparini, if you've got a weakness in that wrist, that man's going to expose it very badly, because he can top roll. So, that's a good match. What will come next for Hermes, God knows. God knows. But he'll be waiting a while if he's hanging on for Devon Larratt, because Devon's focus is going to be elsewhere till certainly June.
I do kind of respect the call out to Matt Mask, even though, how illogical it is. But like Ray said, unfinished business. You got to kind of respect the guy, whether the money was there or not. If he got somebody to back him for $10,000 with him winning nothing, just to kind of avenge that match that people, like Ryan said, you probably put Hermes in the world rankings higher than Matt. And Hermes is just chasing that loss with nothing to gain. That's kind of respectable. I mean, I like that as a whole. But
just to clarify, from Hermes' perspective, I agree 100%, mate. Hermes can't, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, just from a pride perspective, he wants it. But from an arm wrestler's perspective, from a viewer's perspective, I think there's other matches I'd prefer to see more than him again. Because I still think that both those guys possess that quick finish thing. And if, let's say this time round, Hermes cracks Matt gets one and then Hermes dusted him twice. Still not the most entertaining match, still wouldn't necessarily tell us that much. Whereas, like you say, if he pulled someone like Trubin, who's got that staying power, pulled somebody like, Jerry Cadorette, someone like that. I mean, that's another acid test, isn't it? If you get past Jerry, that also would have the thing where Hermes and Jerry would be interesting, because Hermes could then say, I beat the guy that beat the guy.
Yeah.
I would.
Go ahead.
You go.
No, go ahead, because I'm going to sit
I was going to say, I never thought about that match combo before, but my gut feel instantly is I would actually back Hermes. I think Hermes has a short enough arm that he wouldn't have the same drama of being too low and open. I think he would get the wrist, and I think the short enough arm, he would actually have, the drive and the transition to get the job done. I think technically, like biomechanically, I think it's a good match for Hermes. Given
I don't know about that.
That's an interesting. I don't know. That's actually interesting. I mean, and back to practice pulling and some social media stuff that happened recently involving Jerry. Did you guys see Chance Shaw and Jerry?
Yeah.
My buddy Chance. I know it was a little bit late in practice. Hey, maybe I don't know. We were talking practice.
Yeah, I think Jerry woke up ranked number 10 in North America after that one, didn't he?
Mate, I absolutely love Chance Shaw. He's a character. He's a top lad. He's great. He's a fantastic arm wrestler. But he ain't ready for Jerry Cadorette yet.
No, I agree. But I still, and I don't listen. Jerry frightens me. To even practice pull with. I would have to be like, Jerry, don't break my arm. You know what I mean? But for Chance to kind of stand in there and just, bring, fearless. I was regardless of what time it was in practice. And Chance, has had a history of doing some things on the practice table also. But man, he looks good.
Big one for Chance coming up. He's Ron Bath.
Yeah.
I mean, if he
Ron Bath and Jordan Sill coming.
Yeah, Jordan Sill, dateline check. This will be after the Ron Bath Jordan Sill match, but that's this weekend.
Correct.
Shows you when we recorded this. But, that's a great match. That's an exciting match.
End of the day, I love seeing people that I beat go on and beat everyone. So Chance, friggin' wipe the floor with Ron. Do it, mate.
There you go, Ryan. He's back.
Yeah. Chance got a YouTube now. He might be firing back at you now.
That's it.
I think Jerry Cadorette and Hermes Gasparini has got a lot of dimensions. A lot of dimensions. Because you think how many people at that kind of stupid level, Jerry Cadorette's put the brakes on.
Right.
And Jerry Cadorette's always that guy that'll get polished off, like when he went to Nemiroff Cup and he lost and then he comes and everybody's like, oh, Jerry ain't that good. And then Jerry faces somebody in a 6-rounder when he comes in one-on-one and just cleans house like it's a joke.
Do you see Jerry, is Jerry defending with his wrist intact and supinated, or is he underneath and flopping?
Doesn't give a shit. Doesn't care, Ryan. That's the thing. If you have a lot of experience putting Jerry, he doesn't. You can feel like you're in an amazing spot with Jerry. You feel it all connect, and you're like, oh my God, I've got this. And then a train drives through your fucking arm.
Yeah.
And it drives through from a position where you don't think he can do. You're like, no, he can't. Definitely, he's past his shoulder. Everything's knackered. He can't get back from there. And then, and
that's what I'm talking about. It's scary. It's scary to watch. I don't know.
If you don't stay on the bone with Jerry, which in itself takes coconut studs.
Yeah.
If you don't stay on there and you got into that guy's hand, good luck.
Okay, there you go. I'm a big fan of Jerry. I have Jerry in the top 8. I have him ranked above Hermes for me in my head. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He's certainly a man not to be forgotten about.
Yeah, I think Jerry's super, somehow he goes underrated, I think globally, probably because he doesn't travel as much, but I think that guy, I think Jerry is the silver bullet to a lot of guys out there.
Yeah.
I think that, and that to me, he's the most intriguing really of all, when it comes to matchmaking and we talk about the folks, overseas and, Vitali and Levon and Gennady, all of them. Jerry's the one I want to see. Michael Todd, but I've been saying it for a minute. Jerry's the one I want to see these guys. Can you beat the King's move and can you beat the flop at that level? And I just think Jerry, motivated, really he's as dangerous as anybody, especially, if those guys over there haven't faced that style. I don't know. I'd love to see it. You got to put those guys as the favorite, but he's like the dark horse.
Jerry Cadorette, I would go on record to say that Jerry Cadorette is the most globally underrated arm wrestler in the history of arm wrestling. If you look at Jerry Cadorette's record, when big money's on the line, when it's about to go down, he shows up and delivers.
Yep.
Very, very, very few bad, who's he lost against? Bad losses. on his career. When it's a one-on-one or when it's going, very, very few people can say that when it was all right and there wasn't extenuating circumstances that they dusted Jerry. He's beaten everybody there is to beat, often multiple times. He is the most understated, humble, decent bloke you could possibly imagine. Family focused on his work, on his job. Doesn't go and stick his neck out there. Doesn't go and mouth off and tell everybody what a bad man he is. But in the library of bad men, that mother is in the biggest book in the top shelf. He is an absolute freak and a weirdo. And, and I've said it before. What I love about Jerry is it's like that singer analogy. That you switch on the radio and there's a singer and it's a really good singer, a male singer, a female singer, it doesn't matter. They're a great, technically perfect singer. And then Bono from U2 comes on the radio and you don't need anybody to tell you who it is. You know who it is because they're unique. They've just got that unique entity. And there's not many of them out there. And Jerry's one of those dudes. Cobra Rhodes was another back in his day. Just had some kind of a weird thing about what he did that's almost impossible to emulate. And Jerry is carved from a different cloth. It just is. And that alone makes it so you can never discount him.
Yep.
I think he's the nuts. I think Jerry's one of the most enduring characters and endearing characters in the sport.
Yep. I agree.
Needs more attention. Check out, get your Jerry Cadorette. Let's get that big bastard in matches.
It almost comes back to like what we talked about in the previous episode with like the leagues. And certain people need the leagues for promotion because they're not going to do it themselves. Like Jerry's just that guy who's not going to promote himself, you know. No. And the league has done a pretty good job of building Jerry's brand without him having to do much other than just to have the interviews when they do them.
Yeah.
And just put on a good show in the match, you know? So, I mean, I think that's been really good for Jerry and underneath the WAL umbrella. But when we're talking like, you know, globally and the world, I don't know if that really helped his stock. And I think that's kind of erroneous. And that's where we talk about the league crossover matches and stuff. Like we gotta have this happen at least in the supers. Mm-hmm. You know, there's definitely an argument to be made that, you know, in order to be the world's number one, you have to beat the WAL champion, or you know what I mean, in the supers.
Yeah, there's a sort of ever present characteristic to Jerry. A real raw, real aspect to the guy. But I can't help think that when you know Jerry, you know, as I do for so many years, and you've observed him closely, there's an argument there that he's the least focused of all the elite guys in the world as well.
Right.
So it may be that I know he's not the young, you know, he's not spring chicken anymore, but to be perfectly honest, if he'd ever been in a situation where he was as focused as some of the guys in the world, there's a real argument he might have been like head and shoulders best in the world.
Right.
Because he's always 1 foot in the camp, 1 out.
Yeah, it's almost like that Richard Lupke's thing. Mm. Like Richard never really doing table time. And I mean, Jerry does practice, but I mean, from what I understand, and I could be totally wrong, so I don't want to make too much speculation. I don't think he has like a regular battle rhythm for practice. No. I think it's kind of sporadic, and you know, he's one of those guys where I think he trains, he'll do the bench press and stuff, and when he's getting ready for a match, he just tries to get strong. Yeah, I mean, you can only imagine, like, what if he was in what if all he had to do was arm wrestle, like Devon and Mike, you know, or, you know, some of the guys overseas. Yeah.
Well, let's harping back to the Chance Shaw thing, right? Just work this out in your own minds, guys. It's not a rocket science one, this in some ways, is it? If you've got a style and a level of ability like Jerry Cadorette, your arm wrestling style is Jerry, and your level of ability is Jerry. Everybody wants to go to arm wrestling practices with the guys, and you don't want that alpha male, the alpha arm wrestler there to completely dominate and crush you like a bum straight off the bat. You want them to let you have access to them and bounce all over them.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if there's ever a style that's not conducive to letting you have access and bounce all, it's Jerry's. I mean, he's going to give you his hand and wrist completely to expose his joint and let you work from there. it doesn't take too long in a practice against fresh opponent after fresh opponent. His arm is going to be just completely trashed.
Well, I have 3 table sessions a week, and one of my sessions I deliberately structure in such a way that I stay on the table until I'm reduced to the point where I can't really beat anyone in a club anymore. And that might be a 20-minute burst where I literally just take fresh opponent after fresh opponent, and I give them the space to work, and I hold and then grind back from hard positions, hold and grind back from hard positions. And yeah, you can be reduced significantly in those sessions. And so I believe the context of that one with Jerry and Chance was that it was about 45 minutes into the session. And so at 45 minutes in, when you've been letting people grind from difficult, and you're in difficult position, it happened to me just the other night. A dude that I know I can walk all over was crushing me, and I couldn't do a thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's just where the balance is right now. And it's actually a good thing to train. As an arm wrestler, I get so much value out of that because I get to work against more styles then. I have to actually put in genuine effort, and I get to feel different things, and I get to add benefits in ways that if I was just crushing my training partners, it doesn't help me, it doesn't help them. So, I think that's probably what was going on with Jerry and Chance. Not that Chance isn't a badass, but yeah, he's not that level yet.
Right. And listen, we all know, the practice pool and everything. Like, if you're going to practice and you're really, concerned about, it's tough, and I'm only really starting to experience it now. That whenever I do a crossover practice, the cameras are out constantly. So it's hard to stop yourself from falling victim to being concerned about winning at practice, but it's such a trap, where you're not, if you're worried about setting up tournament style so that you don't get pinned in practice, you're not getting better, and you're not facing, and these high level guys like Jerry and, some of the guys who Chance has posted practice with, I think are doing exactly what we're talking about. They're trying to practice and get better, and they're also allowing themselves into spots to allow opponents to work. But the flip side to that, though, is that I don't want to sound like I'm taking anything away from Chance, because I'm not. And I think Chance is really leveling up. I think he's big, and I think he's a scary dude right now for a lot of people. But yeah, as far as the validity from practice, I think the world has to understand that. And that was kind of Matt Mast's response to Hermes, is Devon also, we're talking about 2 practice pools that are generating all this hype. So I think you got to take the practice stuff with a grain of salt, and it's tricky. It's tricky from a perspective of somebody like Jerry with that unique style that, we know if he adds any initiation with that, it's like Todd Hutchings, when his hand goes, if he's in practice, is he really surging, So I don't know. I think, I just thought it was really interesting to watch, because I haven't seen much practice video of Jerry, and I don't even really know, seeing how he practices was really kind of enlightening for me. And his lack of concern with being filmed. I mean, I think he got pinned by a bunch of people, it wasn't just Chance.
No.
So I respect that, because he treats it as a true training rather than a concern for how does he look in social media.
I mean, the interesting thing there, when just going back for a second on the Hermes Gasparini Matt Mask thing, the thing that always fascinated me about that was the amount of, interest that gathered, was Hermes had already shown in the match proper that he had the beating of Matt if he could get where he needed to be. And quick. Because the first round, crack, it was over with. So Hermes had already demonstrated he had the capability of going through Matt if he got what he wanted. It's just that the next 2 times he didn't. And what Matt's done there is demonstrate that he's got that same capability. Now you can then argue, okay, if the match stopped, I'm the stronger man, and he may well have been, quite possibly is, stronger in the arm. I don't know. But it's almost like, I felt a little bit sorry for Hermes that if he felt like he needed to prove that, I don't think he did amongst the guys in the sport who are ingrained in the sport. I don't remember anybody ringing me up or speaking to me and saying, Jesus, that Hermes is a bit of a bum. you know, because he wasn't. And nobody thought that. Nobody thought like, oh Christ, yeah, Hermes has dropped miles off. You just thought, he got caught by a really top puller, got hit a couple of times, got pinned.
Well,
I think he's spot on there, Neil.
Sorry, mate. Have I lost you, buddy? Maybe.
No, I mean...
could you hear that? For some reason, you went crackly as hell on my end.
Oh, man, Paul and I just spoke at the same time, but so I think you're spot on there. I think Hermes perhaps fell into the trap of thinking that, the North American fan-based arm wrestlers we're all looking down on him like he isn't legit. We all know how legit Hermes is. We really, really do.
He's mega.
As you say, that stylistic match was always going to be over quickly one way or the other. Someone was going to get completely disengaged and get pinned. It was very unlikely it was going to be a perfectly balanced match in the top row for the hand. One was going and the other was going down. And it's just, as you said, it's the way it went. So, no, and Hermes' reaction to that, the fans of Hermes, some of the very passionate fans backing up the practice pull that he did with Matt, it was a bit cringeworthy for me, watching it, but, and it's resurfaced now and it's kind of cringeworthy again, but, it is what it is. But as you said, the arm wrestlers, the real arm wrestlers, and I think even the majority of arm wrestling fans, we still know that Hermes is about us. And as you said earlier, I think most of us would actually rank Hermes above Matt Mask on the world ranks if we had to, despite that match.
Yeah, I don't know whether I would or I wouldn't. I just think they're different pullers. I think Matt's absolutely lethal as well. I really do. I think Matt cracks a lot of people. I think the best version of Matt Mask is really friggin' dangerous.
He's right up there,
he's stupidly explosive, stupidly gifted. He's got mega weaponry. Matt Mask, for me, is deadly. Hermes Gasparini.
He's actually one of those guys that when I went to WL 504, when Matt Mask arrived and I was standing next to him in the corridor, and it was a tight corridor, and I'm looking up at him, but there's not a lot of room, and I'm like, Jesus, you're a big
bigger than you think, isn't he?
He's huge.
Yeah,
and the thing is with Matt, it's frame.
Yeah.
It's not fat. It's not. He's a big framed guy.
He's an athlete. He's an athlete, man. And I think that's some of what, looking at some of these guys, usually Americans and Canadians, because I think overseas, a lot of these guys are starting arm wrestling earlier. But a lot of these elite guys, over here have previous sport background, like Matt does with football and stuff. I think he was like a tight end or D end or something. Like he was an athlete, like a stud. So was Jerry, And when you talk about the Matt Mask and Hermes matchup, and Matt even alluded to it in his post, the rule differences, I mean, we can't really ignore them, like WAL and PAL. And I think that the world has developed a distaste for the crossover because some of the guys who are world level elite have struggled in the WAL with the rule setup. But really what it comes down to is being able to understand those rules and adapt to them. And Matt kind of made a point, if I'm going to arm wrestle you and WAF rules, that's fine. That's what I grew up in.
Because it's not slowing him down, is it? There's nothing. What should give a problem to Matt? I mean, right. Matt's the guy that wants that minimal contact in the setup. He's not the guy that's rushing to the back of the 9-inch pan and holding far position. It's already over. Right. If Matt hits you, you're already to bed, as Hermes can attest. If he gets into you, you're friggin' struggling. It's a massive ask to stop the guy when he gets into that kind of position. You've got to be upper echelon strength just to put any kind of brakes on him. He's like a giant top rolling machine, isn't he?
Yep.
He's going to neutralise everything you've got and then put 115, 120 kilos of body weight into your fingertips at 60 miles an hour. Bad motherfucker. He's like a giant Vlad the Destroyer. In terms of he's just going to light your ass up. And Vlad's like that. If Vlad gets into most guys, he blasts you. He will literally put you to bed. You're done. Tucked in. Have your hot chocolate. Cough.
Center table arm wrestlers. I like to call them center table arm wrestlers. They're just killers from center table. They're not catch and contain at all. They're just killed.
Oh, catch and contain. There ain't no catch and contain there. He's a friggin' black mamba. That guy, the problem is that it's like we used to have Craig Sanders had come to training, and Craig Sanders, everybody's like, oh, Craig had come training, nobody want to get on table with Craig. Everybody put anybody in the room you'd pull, but you didn't want to pull Craig. Because Craig in slow motion was 150 miles an hour. So you're saying like, yeah, Craig, do us a favour, mate. No real fast hits. Yeah, we're off, mate. No problem. Yeah, you're right. I'll go slow. And then he'd hit you. And his slow motion hit was 80 miles. You'd like, what? And then you go, okay, right, I'm going to stay over here, Craig. You stay on. Because he just lit people up. And all around the room, you'd say, you go on with Craig for a bit, mate. You go on with Craig. Nobody wanted to go on with Craig. And it's like Daniel Moses, probably another one. Daniel, right? Let's look at Daniel. Love him or hate Daniel, he's been on an absolute tear, okay? A couple of weeks ago, what was it, Paul? Was it Alabama State where he lost to Jerome?
Yep.
Okay, so Alabama State, right? He loses to Jerome Loud. Mm-hmm. I don't know about any of you guys, but at that time I'm thinking, wow, that's really impressive from Jerome. At no point did I think, well, Dan Moses clearly a bum.
Yeah.
Never did I think that. I still think Dan Moses is a friggin' animal. He's a beast. If Dan hits you, he will light your ass up. I never even thought that.
The community can be fickle with that stuff. It's like, what have you done for me lately? And you're only as good as your last win or loss. So in all actuality,
lately.
Yeah. So people are so quick to forget things like, Mosier was on a roll. I mean, I think he hadn't lost a match or something in like over a year and a half or 2 years. And all of a sudden that streak ended, and now people stopped, the hype has died. It's so funny really to think about it. But Jerome, let's be serious, guys. Jerome is the man also. Like, he's a weirdo. Like, a loss to Jerome is nothing to be ashamed of in any way, shape, or form.
It's just as simple as, once you get to a level, if you get cracked, you get cracked. And there's a lot of guys out there that you may not know about that are really friggin' sick. Look at Bojidar at weekend. I mean, he was in a screaming match. And he's the world champion many times, and yet he's in a screaming
matches.
Rounds. I mean, it has one unit, but the fact of the matter is there are people out there that can and will and did put the brakes on somebody who is the world champion, who is a multiple world champion. There's many guys. Now, the great thing about the sport of arm wrestling is that there's a lot of really strong people. Loads of them. Absolutely loads of them. And I love that. Because matchmaking potential, through the roof. It's just chasing the level till eventually you top out and get to Danny Tesh.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Any sightings, mate, of Danny?
No, not yet. No.
It does agree.
Any sightings?
Yeah. Well, it's true, isn't it? There's more footage of Nessie.
Yeah.
Shame, really. Oh, God. Come on, Danny, come back.
Can I just say I deliberately trained the last 10 minutes of my training session last night. I trained deliberately in the King's move. I don't ever do that. But I just decided to. And I am more sore today than I have been in a long time.
Are we talking muscular soreness or joint?
Muscular soreness in my bicep is like, what the
hell?
It's
an area of elasticity you never usually visit, isn't it? So,
I won't do it.
Yeah.
I will not do it.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
I can't King's move, and I don't want to. That. Joint destruction.
Yeah, I had a good play with it. That was the longest play with it that I've had. I got down there. I worked hard. People really drove on me. They really stretched me out to like 1 inch away from the pad. And oh man,
was this you working with Sam Burnett in what you're calling that King's hook thing?
Yeah, well, it wasn't with Sam, but it was with that sort of crew. Yeah. Sam's King's Hook, kind of a little interesting variation to the pronated version of a King's move, but no, this was kind of traditional King's move. Pronated, get a bit of a top roll away, and then drop down low, make the tricep parallel, and then just let those dudes go to town on me. It was nothing. I'm sore. I've been making excuses all day to my partner.
When is your next match, mate?
Mate,
you had a thing lined up, didn't you? You were going to try and knock off a lot of the top guys in the country.
Yeah. So I've only got 3 to go. I've got Ryan, Scott, Ben, Carroll, and Lachlan Adair. The most interesting thing is only 3 weeks from now, Lachlan and Ryan, as in the Milkman, face for the official number 1 rank in Australia. That's going to be good. I'll be over there in Perth for that. I was hoping to face Ben Carroll again then, but he works a fly-in, fly-out job, so he's offshore during that one.
What does he do, Ben?
Ben Carroll?
Yeah. He's not like Frauder.
I think
he works in rigs.
Works in oils or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So he's basically like Frauder. Frauder used to work on rigs.
Yeah. But Lachlan and the Milkman, it happens on the 28th of March. So.
Mm-hmm. Right around the corner. Now, we can't let this show finish because even though we're going out after the match, just on the block time, who's everybody got in Ron Bath, Jordan Sill?
Ooh. It's right and left, guys. Right and left.
Right and left. Okay. Yeah. Let's start with right arm. This, obviously, the result will be out now and everybody will know and it'll have been talked about probably till everybody's sick of it. But we are filming this before that match took place and I'm just interested to see who people have got because it's a weird one, that, isn't it? It's really, you've got Ron who's reinvigorated. Just seems to be in a good place right now and he looks. There was a picture on, I think it was Facebook or Insta the other day, of Ron just stood behind him, and he looked like a giant triangle. His back all full of knots, and he looked in really good shape. We've just seen him pull the other week, and he looked strong. That was that left. He pulled left against Breeder, didn't he, on the left arm? Yep. Super match, looked solid there. And then on the other side of that, you've got Jordan Sill, who his last outing was bigger than we've ever seen him, and he looked like a frigging killer.
Yep.
Yeah. Took care of Todd Hutchins, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
So who have you got, guys? Who wants to go first?
Well, I don't know Jordan Sill very well at all, so I find it very difficult. So I'll probably give the least accurate prediction here. I've met Ron. I've trained with Ron. Based on what Jordan did to Todd, I feel like it's his to win, but Ron's going to be crafty. Ron's got so much more up his sleeve that he can pull on. How many rounds are we talking here?
5
rounds.
5. Okay, 5. I'm going Ron. If it was less, if it was 3, I would have gone Jordan. But I think by the end of it, I think Ron will find a way.
Ray, who have you got?
I'll go with Jordan Sill. If young, hungry, strong Jordan Sill cannot beat Ron Bath, something is wrong. Ron is either in different plane of existence or he's just, just the baddest dude there ever was. Because at his age, being still basically the top dog, it's kind of ridiculous.
It's mega, isn't it?
Just think about it. Really think about it. Imagine Paul, you don't have to imagine. You live there. But, imagine someone in Australia being basically the oldest guy there is and being the man. That's how I see. Jordan,
it's very likely that Ron, when he probably doesn't know his early origins, but he'll probably find something saying that he came over on a boat from Brisbane.
Yeah.
He'll go back in a few weeks and say, holy shit, I've just found this. And apparently, I'm from Brisbane.
What was the DNA test? 23andMe or something? That's what he needs to do. And he doesn't need to do it. We know it's from Brisbane. I'll back up Jordan Sill, but I would love to see Ron Bath kicking ass. So, yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, mate, you think about the old, they used to get the Crazy George legend and everybody would talk about Crazy George. Crazy George, 175 years old, and he can still beat anybody in the world. But everybody say, yeah, But he beat everybody in the world, but he wasn't really arm wrestling. He was just doing the King's move, and that was the difference. Well, Ron Bath isn't, and he's 60 years old. And if anything, he's like having it's like a resurgent Ron Bath, isn't it? He's looking mega focused as hell. Anyway, enough of me gathering on. So why talk? You're closer to you probably felt these two guys out recently.
I have. I pulled with Ron at Morocco's last big practice, and then I got to pull with Jordan only a couple of weeks ago.
Insight. Here we go.
Yeah. So Jordan's like 230 when I pulled him, and he was on the gain train.
Dentist weight, 230.
Yes.
Hi, girl, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, late in the show. Still got it.
So yeah, he was 230 looking 245. And he was, like I said, I think he's planning to go up because he saw how big Ron was. Now, the way I'm kind of gauging my prediction or evaluation is off of the Brita and Ron Bath match. I had Brita as the favorite in that left arm. Only because when I worked with Ron, he was saying his left wasn't healthy. And he didn't feel really good going inside. He just used his hand to defend. And to see Brita kind of take control outside and then Ron jam him into that hook and go to war through what was, I think, 8 starts or something like that, or 9. It was a lot of starts. To me, that just showed that Ron is super strong right now. And if there's a carryover right arm, I think he has a shot to win it. But after feeling Jordan's right and feeling Jordan's left, I'm going to go with a 3-1 or a 3-2 Jordan. Because I just think he's healthy, and just a little bit more insight into Jordan, because he's one of those guys that doesn't make excuses. But I did talk to him kind of off the record, about some of the matches. And I guess in round 2 against RVJ, he tore a tendon in the lower part of his wrist, or a ligament, one of those things, whatever it was. And he continued on for a year. His match with Storm was that he had no bottom 2 containment, which is his whole game.
Yeah.
So he never made the excuse publicly about it, but then he did go and get surgery on that. So now he has all of that now for that low hand down pressure. And he's feeling really confident with it. So I'm actually leaning towards Sill right arm and Ron left.
Yeah, so I've got it, mate.
Yeah,
so I went on the other day on the prediction show. I said I had Jordan winning the right, and Ron winning the left, but just because I actually didn't think Jordan's left was as good.
Well, he's according to him, it's his dominant arm.
Is it?
Yeah, but I mean, and that's not my dominant arm, and I felt like I was more competitive with him left arm.
But you've been saying that your left's been mega recently, haven't you?
It's getting better, but it still just isn't. It's not my right coordination.
You're right. Yeah.
But I wasn't. I was expecting him to just smoke my left, and being able to kind of bang with him a little bit left leads me to believe that I got Ron probably winning left, and Jordan probably winning right.
No,
but I could go either way, because if Ron comes in like what he's looking like right now, if he's gotten even bigger and stronger, who knows, man?
What was Ron's weight, mate, when you lost to him?
Oh, I think he was maybe 240, right around there. But he looks bigger now.
Bloody hell. Yeah, it's great to see.
That's a lot of weight.
He's big, man. His shoulders, and you don't realize.
His back was huge,
like, if you look at like some of the pictures I posted with Ron, like he towers over me. Like I'm just a shade under 6 foot. This guy towers over me. His presence is just so much more. He's a big human.
He's another guy like we're saying with Matt, where I'm Jordan actually, but with Ron he's got the height the real height as well. But Ron's got a mega frame, hasn't he? Just big, thick wrists, massive thick hands, just a big man.
It's all evenly distributed. It's not like a disproportionate thing.
Yeah, giant athlete, made for the game. He really is. He's made for the game, and that's an exciting matchup. And next time we're on show 58, we'll be able to talk about how that went down. Are you going to be there, mate? Are you going to that?
No, I can't.
Okay. Where's it taking place? Is it?
Now I'm going to draw a blank. I really don't even know. It's the NatFit KC match, or KC event, I believe. It's Midwest.
Yeah. Any other biggies on the card there?
Oh man, we just talked through the card on another podcast. That's the headliner, for sure. There's a bunch of super matches, but that's the headliner. That's the main event. There's like none other ones that are super, super notable.
Mm-hmm. And the next one we'll talk about, we're running out of time now, but we will talk about another exciting match that's come out this week, after a little bit of back and forth on social media, which I think is a great pull between two of my favourite people and arm wrestlers. Both very underrated, both phenomenal arm wrestlers, and that's Marcio Barboza, Ryan Espy, lefty.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to try and jam that in at the end of the show because it deserves so much more. I think that's just been signed by Jeff and the TAL. Jeff's still doing great things over there, which is ace. And he's got a cracking match up there as far as I'm concerned. I think that's an absolute belter. And we'll look at that next show we're on. But I'm conscious, guys, we're over the hour mark. And I want to say a massive thanks, lads, for giving up your time, as always, for the fix and coming on here. First of all, ladies and gents, Rollie Ray, voice of arm wrestling. Check out the voice for all things arm wrestling, particularly for the new guys in the sport. There is nowhere better for speccing yourself up on training techniques, technical tuition. It's world class. So get yourself over to Voice of Arm Wrestling. Ryan Blue Bowen, get yourself over to his channel. Absolutely been through it recently, but one of the things that he made clear on that was the amount of effort and time he's put into this. It is his livelihood. It is his life. Yeah. And Ryan's built up a huge archive, a varied archive of arm wrestling. So get yourself over to Ryan Bowen. Lethal Arms Apparel, one of the most underrated channels there. You see Paul Linn, the White Hawk, popping up on podcast after podcast. He tirelessly gives a lot of his time. You'll see him at practices all over. He's a valuable, valuable source of information for us and for the whole arm wrestling world. And I want to say thanks, Paul. Really appreciate your input as always, mate. And it's great to have that insight of what's going on in North America. Guys, if this is your first time here at Supernatural Strength, please like, share, subscribe. Let everybody know about the channel. We're building it up nice and steady. Love doing what we're doing, and hopefully you're enjoying the content out there. Till we see you next time here on The Fix, ladies and gents. So get easy, peeps.
What grabs your eyes on that, if anything?